Let's switch our focus now to Yoko Senkaku, the side triangle. You'll remember that our triangle system has 5 triangles within it. These were divided into category A and category B. Category A was the front triangle, the rear triangle, and the opposite-sided triangle. All 3 of those triangles can be combined with each other. Whenever you've got one, you've always got the other 2. All you need to do is change the angle around your opponent's head and shoulders, and you can switch from one to the other and form long combinations. Now we go to category B. This is the side triangle. The first one we're going to look at is side triangle. We're going to start with a look at just the mechanics of a side triangle, just a general look at what this position is. Let's understand something. In the sport of jiu-jitsu, the side triangle is rarely seen every so often, but not common. In the sport of judo, it's actually the most common form of triangle, much more common than our most common form of triangle, the front triangle. Why is this? Why is it that in jiu-jitsu, front triangle is king, and in the sport of judo, side triangle is king? Well, it's because in the sport of judo, there's a lot more back exposure. Typically, athletes will engage in throwing actions which often expose their back to their opponent. There's limited time to work on the mat, and so one good option is to maneuver into a side triangle position. There's another reason too. The side triangle has a dual function. It's not only a stranglehold, it's also a very successful pinning method. You can pin someone. In the sport of jiu-jitsu, if I pin you for a certain period of time, somewhere between 20 to 25 seconds, depending upon the year, the match is over. And so it's highly effective for finishing fights, both as a pin and as a submission hold. In jiu-jitsu, of course, you don't get matches aren't ended by pins, so we only have the submission aspect, so there's less of a motivation to try it. It's a fantastic move in itself. I believe it could be used a lot more in the sport of jiu-jitsu with great profit. As I said, it's used very profitably in the sport of judo. We ought to be bringing this move into our sport and using as much as we can. It's a tremendous way of attacking from a variety of positions. I'll start looking at it when we actually get into entries for the move from back position, because I believe that's where the most effective entries come from, although we'll look at a bunch. But let's start just looking at just the position itself and the mechanics of the strangle, because it can be a little bit confusing when you first start off. Let's start with a situation where we have a training partner with his head here and feet going out in this direction. Okay. First, what is a side triangle? Okay. Well, one thing is true for all the triangles. We know this. This is the idea of a one in, one out situation. Okay. In the case of a side triangle, I'm going to place my foot here in my training partner's armpit. So my leg goes across my training partner's neck and chest and goes into the armpit, just like so. Okay. That creates a one in, one out situation where one of his arms is outside my legs and one of his arms is inside my 2 legs. So we've satisfied the first and most basic prerequisite for any triangle attack. We got the one in, one out situation. Okay. From here, we're going to divide our leg between the strangle leg and the support leg, again, like any other triangle. And we're going to take our support leg underneath our training partner's neck and shoulders, so it comes through just like so. Okay. So now I have my strangle leg lined up with my training partner's neck, and I have my support leg here underneath his head. Now, from here, as we draw our training partner's arm across the body, we're going to get opportunities to put the hollow of our knee all the way around the tricep. This is very important. If I just have the calf muscle around my opponent's knee, it's very, very hard to lock a full triangle. You'll get a trap triangle, but not a full figure of 4. So it's very important that I take the hollow of my knee and I hook around the rear deltoid, just like so. That will become extremely important, and we'll spend quite a bit of time looking on that later. Let's put our legs down. Now, from this position, look how I draw my foot back so it comes up and my heel touches his rear deltoid. As a result, when I lock the triangle, it's a full figure of 4. Now, as you know, it's very, very important when we lock triangles, we eliminate the shoulder. That's one of the great themes of this video. If I lock with my legs, rise up a little bit, underneath his shoulder, it's very, very hard for me to lock the figure of 4 because his shoulder is still inside my triangle. It's so important we go to eliminate the shoulder. That's why we always take our thigh out underneath our training partner's head, and I turn my knee down to the floor so that the shoulder comes out, and I hook over the tricep, not the shoulder. Again, I've said this so many times, I'll keep coming back to it. To lock a tight triangle when you have short legs and your opponent is broad with the shoulders, you have to eliminate the shoulder. It's particularly important with the Yoko Senkaku, okay? Because you are covering more area with this move. Now, when we lock the figure of 4, we pull everything back in towards ourselves. Our legs back heel. Don't extend your legs here. That's not the idea. We want to pull everything back in this direction. From here, when he goes to resist the effects of the strangle, it's a difficult thing to achieve. And we form a very, very tight strangulation indeed in this position. Okay? Once again, we're going to start off with our training partner here in front of us. We lock up. And from here, my foot goes into my opponent's armpit. That creates the initial 1 in, 1 out situation. Okay? Once we're here, we bring our foot through underneath, and my support leg goes through underneath my training partner's head. It's super important that I take the hollow of my knee as I stretch across the body and put it around behind the triceps. We don't want to involve our opponent's shoulder, so I make sure my leg goes up here on the tricep. Then, when we lock the figure of 4 and we go to back heel with our 2 legs, we create an immensely strong strangulation. Okay? Let's look at some of the things that can go wrong with this move in terms of mechanics. If my leg does not penetrate all the way through the hollow of my knee behind the triceps, we'll always end up, strong body, with a weak looking crossing of our ankles. You'll never get past the trap triangle, and you'll never strangle anybody. There's still some good things you can do here, but strangulation is not one of them. Okay? You'll often see people trying to pull the arm in to make up for this failure. No. Pulling the elbow in is good. We'll come back to that topic later, but the real key here is not how far or as close his elbow is, it's how extended your leg is. I always want the leg, the top leg, the strangle leg, extended first, and then it comes back. Never try to pull back first. Extension first, and then from here, contraction. Now, when we lock, you can clearly see my shoelaces easily come up all the way to the hollow of my knee. Like any good triangle, the shoelaces of my foot fit into the hollow of my knee. If the shoelaces of my foot are on my calf muscle, you're never going to strangle people in this position. I must always create extension of my legs and expose the hollow of my right knee to the shoelaces of my left foot. And as a result, we get a strangle that comes on immediately. Okay? Now, let's look at the most important mechanical details, the one which will make the difference between success or failure whenever you use this move. There's a certain body movement which you will always see me incorporate slightly before I make the adjustment to the strangle. If you can replicate this movement, you're going to strangle a lot of people with this move. If you can't, you're going to get into a lot of frustrations. Okay, first things first. My support leg goes under the head like a pillow. Never does my support leg go under a scapula. This will condemn you to failure right from the start. Okay? All the time I see people trying to fight for triangles with their leg underneath the scapula. The guy just resists with the arms, and it's impossible to strangle anyone here. This is a disaster. Okay? So what we want to do whenever we've got a poorly placed bottom leg is a simple trick. I take my bottom foot and I just shift my hips out by turning belly down. This always places my leg where it should be, underneath his head. This is a very simple movement that makes a real concrete difference in your performance of this move. Let's have a look at it again. He rises, and you can see that my right leg is placed under his scapula. This is an invitation to disaster. You will not be able to strangle people. I don't care how long your legs are. Okay? From here, you squeeze and squeeze, and there's no effect. All he has to do is retract his elbow, and it's done. Okay. So what we need to do is to take our bottom foot, put it on the mat, and turn belly down. This correctly places my legs every single time, so that when I readjust back to a hip, everything is set properly. My right leg is correctly placed underneath his head. The extension of my leg guarantees that the hollow of my knee is in his tricep. And then when I back heel, everything locks in place perfectly. Now we lock up the Kimura, and the strangle is immediate. Let's have a look at this whole sequence again, using this special shift, which I often refer to as the belly down shift. When you're hearing me coaching my athletes, you'll often hear me screaming, belly down shift, belly down shift. This is what I mean. When we lock up, I pass my foot through like so. As I pitch over, my leg, in this case my right leg, is poorly placed underneath his scapula. That's going to condemn me to failure if I try to squeeze from this position. So I take my foot, place it on the mat, and I turn belly down. I point my two knees at the mat. That perfectly places my legs so that when I shift back into the triangle position, it's so easy for me now to lock the full figure of four and then retract into a perfect stranglehold. This simple belly down shift is the difference between success or failure with this position. In the vast majority of cases, you will have to make this shift. It is unlikely that you will go into a perfect side triangle position on your first attempt. It doesn't happen often. So this belly down shift is a big part of your success or failure here. Let's have a look at it one more time. We'll change the angle. From here, we have any given initial grip on our training partner, which enables us to fit our feet into the one in, one out situation, where one arm is outside my legs and one arm is inside. From here, we pitch down towards the mat, and unfortunately, we get caught in a situation where my thigh is caught underneath his scapula. So we lock up a Kimura. We have the confidence to separate our legs. I use my right foot to turn my left knee downwards. So I'm belly down and both of my knees point down at the mat. This correctly places my right leg underneath his head so that when I come back, I'm perfectly set for a nice stranglehold. Now, one leg straightens right along the shoulder line. The other leg retracts. So my two legs go in opposite directions. One extends, one retracts. And as a result, we can quickly lock up a devastating stranglehold. When my opponent tries to pull his elbow free, it's physically impossible, and the stranglehold is immensely tight. So often, I hear people complain that the side triangle lacks strangulation power. I hear this all the time. Oh, it's not as tight as the other triangles. That is absolute garbage. Done properly in this fashion, the side triangle is as tight as any triangle. It is an absolutely superb strangulation and works extraordinarily well. What does happen is there are often failures in mechanics that contribute to a poor strangle, and the move itself gets a bad reputation. It's not the failure of the move, it's the failure of the execution. If you incorporate the belly down shift, you will be shocked at how powerful this move is as a strangulation, and it will be a valuable addition to your arsenal. Let's look at the mechanics just one more time, because there's a lot of confusion about this move, and often I see people just don't believe in it. They just look at it doesn't work. Okay, it works, believe me. So, an initial grip, the one in, one out situation. You can see why my move here is about to fail. As I sit, my right leg goes under his scapula. That will absolutely create a weak stranglehold. You can see I can't even lock a real triangle here. I can only get halfway at my calf muscle. There's no way this is going to work on anyone with any kind of competence. However, if I have the confidence to unlock my triangle and pop up and turn everything inwards so that my two knees face down to the floor. Now, for the first time, my right leg is well positioned. When I return to my hip, I now have two legs, here both extended. One extends further and the other retracts. That puts my shoelace directly in the hollow of my knee. Even as my opponent goes to lock his hands, do any kind of defensive movement, turn into me, etc., none of these things have any effect. And from here, it's an enormously tight strangulation, which will shock your training partners when you apply it in this manner. Now, let's start looking at the idea of using this side triangle. We just saw the mechanics of it. Let's start looking at how we're going to apply that in a competitive situation. One of the best ways for us to use side triangle attacks is when our opponent has exposed his back to us, typically turtle position. Let's look at a situation where our training partner faces forward in a turtle situation like so. And we are behind and ready to go on the attack. We're going to go through and we're going to secure our training partner's hand, coming all the way up and drawing it in like so. So we've got a good bite on that hand and we're ready to go to work. We're going to put our second hand on the floor and we're going to take our knees off the mat. We're going to start moving around, big strong body. From here we're going to start moving around our training partner. My two hands sitting up straight are going to come in and we're going to get a 2-on-1 grip on the hand itself. Okay, so I have one hand in, the other hand over. Okay, strong body. Now from here we're going to start moving around our training partner and we're going to put our knee over our training partner's head and bring it in and down. As a result, I'm able to lever my training partner's arm out away from his body. Let's move around this way. Now, with the arm levered out and away from the body, I'm going to take my hand through and we're going to put the beginnings of a Kimura grip on. Okay, presumably his arm will be down like so. Now from here, we're going to get a hold of his wrist and we're going to apply Kimura. Okay, I'm going to try to lever him over with the Kimura. If my opponent just fell over, then I would go directly into my Kimura system. But let's say our opponent puts his hand out wide for base, and now I can't get him over with the Kimura. This is the perfect time to go on the attack with Yoko Senkaku. Between the dilemma of the Kimura attack and the Yoko Senkaku, you're going to finish a lot of people here. I'm going to take my foot and step right over my training partner's armpit. Okay, I'm going to come up into a low squat position. Now I'm going to fall straight back, not over to the side, but straight back over his head. And as a result, we quickly take him over into a position where we can attack the Yoko Senkaku. I've achieved the one in, one out position. From here, I start that action of turning belly down. As he tries to reach his hands together to defend the Kimura, he gives me exactly what I wanted, the perfect entry into this very, very useful position. Look how, as always, one leg straightens, the other retracts, and from here we lock up a Kimura on his near arm, putting the hand on the stomach. When he tries to pull out of here, it's so difficult. And from here, the strangle is immensely tight. Once again, we have an opponent working like so. We start off with our tight waist grip. I go forward and I catch my training partner's arm and draw it inwards. I take my knees off the mat and I go around and I catch my training partner 2-on-1. Now from here I cover the head and I pull the arm out and I lock Kimura. As I try for the Kimura, he's got his arm extended, his base is strong. So I take my foot and I go over the top and hook inwards. I come up into a low squat position over my training partner's head. Now from here, I pull him over, and now we're in a good position to go on the attack. Look how I invert and push my body belly down. As a result, we can come back and apply the Yoko Senkaku. One leg extends, the other retracts, so we lock up the figure of 4. From here, we squeeze for a strong finish. Let's have a look at it from a different angle. We start off just like so. I go in and secure the wrist. From this position, I move around my training partner's body and there's that grip on the hand. Now, I cover my training partner's head, I extract my training partner's arm, and I lock the Kimura. From that Kimura lock, I try hard to get him over, not working. Can't get the hand out, can't extract it. No problem, I step my foot over and hook inside. Now from here, I come up into a low squat and we take him directly over the head. From this position, our whole effort is to come up and go belly down like so. That gives me the opportunity to get my bottom leg all the way through in the correct position. Now, right foot goes back, left foot goes in. When he tries to escape, it's so difficult, and we get a very, very tight strangulation indeed. Let's look at some common errors that are made in this situation. From here, we go in and secure our training partner's wrist. As we move around and we go in and lock, here's a common error. People come out and disasters start to happen. You see people get confused with the Kimura in this position. It's pretty simple. From here, look how my left hand punches through and the right hand goes on top. So here we are, we're locked. There it is. So when I lock, the Kimura is perfect. So often you see people locking the Kimura the wrong way. And it's so easy now for him to explode his hand out of here and get away. Okay? So when we first come around on our training partner, we've got our hand set. It's so important we lock the Kimura so my right hand can threaten to push across the body and get him down to the floor. I can't have my hands locked the wrong way. Okay, that's going to be a disaster. Make a strong hand. So when I come around the corner and we're trying to extract his hand out like so, look how one hand goes in and the second hand goes over. And as a result, I'm able to put him under pressure. Now, when I can't get him over with Kimura, another common problem. People try to fall across the body. No, that's not the efficient way to go. Okay? Put your arm out strong. I can't fall that way. What I want to do is fall directly backwards over the head. So I just go straight down this way and lift them over. Okay? When we get into this position, don't try to lock it here. Have the confidence to come up and then come back. That's going to create the strong strangle pressure that we need. Okay? Let's look at the additional use of our foot to assist in turning our opponent over. When we come around the corner on our training partner, we know that the whole thing is to catch here at the forearm, so I can apply a good Kimura and try to take the man over. Okay? I step, my foot comes up. When I step a second time, watch my right foot. I often take my right foot inside his legs to assist in taking him over. Now, belly down, my knees going in nice and tight. And from here, when we lock the figure of four, the strangle is immediate. I'll show that detail one more time. This way, yeah. So we're behind our training partner, and we catch our training partner at the wrist. From here, we're working to control this man, etc., etc. From here, I start moving around, come around the corner, and I catch 2-on-1 like so. Now, as I move around the corner, I trap my training partner's head. There's the initial control, and there's the Kimura lock. I try to put him over with Kimura, it's not working. I go through and hook. Okay? Watch my right foot fit all the way inside so we get good amplitude to take him over. We shift around the corner, lock through. There's the figure of four. He tries to turn into me, etc., etc., and it's so difficult, and the strangle is set. Done in this way, this Yoko Senkaku, this side triangle, is a devastating addition to your back attacks. Now, we've been looking at Yoko Senkaku. The version we just looked at is by far and away the most successful version of Yoko Senkaku side triangle in modern day competition. It's not the only version, however. There's another version also very, very good and absolutely worthwhile for you to know, and this one also figures prominently in modern day competition. This is a seated version of the Yoko Senkaku. Let's have a look at it from a front headlock type situation. Every so often you're going to get a front headlock situation where there's a little bit of space down here on the mat, and you feel like normally from here you're working with your arms, etc., etc. We're going to do a different move where I just take my knee forward and I go here so that my thigh muscle, the hip flexor is up against my training partner's trapezius muscle. Okay. From here, I'm going to post on my training partner's head to keep the head down. If the head rises here, he can double leg me. Okay, that's not a good thing. So we keep the head down. Now, I take my foot and I go through and I hook on my training partner. I'm going to put in a tight waist grip, and I'm going to put my second hand down on the floor. From here, I'm going to pull back on his arm. And I'm just going to slide down to the mat. I stay over my training partner because I got my hand on the floor on this side. Okay. When he goes to pull his arm back, it's working against my leg. It's not easy. Okay. And it's pretty easy for us to use that tight waist grip to come up and seize our training partner right here and put our foot right behind his tricep muscle so that we eliminate the shoulder. You'll always hear me saying every triangle involves eliminating the shoulder. Now, from this position, we go through and we lock the figure of 4. I put my hand on the waist, just like so. As my opponent tries to pull away from me, it's a very, very tight triangle. And then from here, we just squeeze, and we've got a very, very tight triangle finish. Okay? This is a beautiful variation of the move. Let's have a look at this again. From a situation where we're working front headlock down on the mat, and for whatever reason we feel that the hand game, front headlock, we saw in the front headlock system, is just not there. So we're going to go through and put our knee all the way in and penetrate. I make sure I keep my second leg out and away and my hand posting on the head to keep it down. If I have both my knees down on the floor and I don't control the head, it's an easy double leg for him here, and he'll just dump me down to my butt. Okay, so we can't give an easy double leg out like that. If he's going to get a double leg, he's got to work for it. So from a situation in here, I take my knee on the inside and I post on my training partner's head. Now, he's reaching for a double leg. I put my leg behind his arm, take away that option. Now, my other hand goes down to the floor and I put in a tight waist. I start to pull on my training partner's arm with my leg, and this one here comes through. Don't flop down to your side. Don't do this. That's it, his ass. It's gone now. Okay, I need to keep my head over his waist. Okay, if he tries to pull his arm out, it ain't going anywhere. It's stuck. Now I start extending it forward, and I reach and I pull inwards. I bring my foot over my own knee. Very important detail. If my foot is below my knee, when I go to make the hook, it's easy to lose the position. So I want to pull my foot over my own knee. When he goes to yank out, very, very tough. Okay. Now, when we lock, everything goes in. We're set in place now. I bring my hand, it's a tight waist. I bring myself up to a hand like so, and then from here, I just retract my 2 legs and we strangle for the finish. Once we start putting our opponent down into a position where the legs lock in, we get a very, very tight strangulation indeed in this position. Once again, front headlock situation, we're in like so. I place my knee through and I post on my training partner's head. My foot goes around the corner and hooks. Okay, tight waist goes on, my hand goes on the floor, and I sit with control down to a hip. Guys, let's not do this. Okay, let's not just flop down. That's a disaster. Now the head comes out, and you just gave up top position for nothing. Okay, so it's important that when we go down, we sit down with control. Okay, my head stays over him. Now from here I scissor so that his head is well controlled and kept down. Now I pull my foot over my own knee so that when I go to lock the figure 4, there's no danger of slippage. Okay. Now I bring my body weight forward, and from here I just squeeze my legs and I get a very tight strangulation. This is a very, very powerful and difficult to contend with triangle. This is actually one of the hardest triangles to defend. It's not obvious where you should turn, what you should hook. It's a scary triangle to get caught in, and the strangle is very, very impressive with its power. This is one of those triangles that everyone's going to tell you need long legs for this one. Okay, I'm not going to lie to you. It does help with any triangle to have long legs. That's just a fact. Okay, anyone who tells you that long legs or leg length isn't an issue is a liar. It is. If you're 5'1" and your opponent's 6'4" and has shoulders like Gordon Ryan, it's unlikely you're going to hit a side triangle on them. However, if someone is in your own weight category and presumably is of at least roughly similar size, you are going to lock side triangles on them all day if your mechanics are correct. You will even be pleasantly surprised how you can lock good side triangles on people taller or thicker than yourself. However, if your mechanics are poor, you're not going to lock a side triangle on anybody, even if you have long legs. Your mechanics, your alignment, your positioning is the number one determinant of whether you're going to be able to lock on someone with someone with broad shoulders or not. The second most important determinant is actually your waist size. And the third most important is the length of your legs. Okay, so there's three determinants as to how well you're going to be able to lock legs on big, thick opponents. The most important by far is body positioning. The second most important is the size of your waist. And the third and last really is the length of your legs. So don't tell yourself you're condemned to failure before you even begin. I've seen plenty of people with short legs who had a fearsome strangle in multiple positions. You can be one of them too. Focus on your body alignment. Keep your waistline under control, and you'll lock up a lot of people that you thought you couldn't. Okay? Now, we've been looking at Yoko Senkaku, the side triangle. This is an incredibly effective method if used well. Used poorly, not so much. But used well, you'll have a lot of success with it. Now, I want to show you a transition between the seated Yoko Senkaku that we just saw and the supine Yoko Senkaku that we started with. Let's have a look at that right now. Same front headlock situation we just looked at. We saw we're in a front headlock type situation. We put our knee in and we stuffed our training partner's head. We came up vertical and hooked into our training partner's leg. From here, we saw the idea of a tight waist, a hand to the floor, and then we sat down with control and we started to apply this Yoko Senkaku. As I extended my leg, I brought my foot up above my knee, and we locked on just like so. Now, sometimes, for whatever reason, you just feel the strangle's not there. The guy's pulling his elbow back, and you're like, ain't happening, not strangling. No problem, we can work out of this. I get my tight waist in place, and I grab my training partner here by the ankle. Let's move around some. No. So I grab my training partner by tight waist and ankle, just like so. And I pull my head around the corner like I was trying to look around his hamstring muscle, okay? As I adjust my body position, I pull him on top of me, and we send him right across our body. As a result, he's now in a pin position down on the floor, okay? From the pin position, we do what we always do. We lock up Kimura on the near arm, okay? We make any necessary adjustments to enhance the strangle. We know what our best enhancement of the strangle involves. It involves the idea of turning belly down and turning my knee in so that when we relock the triangle, it's ungodly tight on the neck. Now from here, he tries to turn out, move out, etc., and we just squeeze with the legs, and we get a very tight strangulation. Make sure it's a decisive tap so I can see it. So, once again, we start off, front headlock type situation, down on the mat. My knee goes in, and we quickly rise up, and we stuff down on our training partner's head. As we make a good catch on our training partner, we're in the ideal position to start working. Now, from here, look how we put in a tight waist. We put a hand down on the floor, we rake back with one arm, and we sit down with control over our training partner just like so. Okay, when he tries to move out of here, it's not easy. Okay, you've secured the one in, one out. Now it's time for us to pull our foot up above our knee and lock in place. As we lock up the figure of four, for whatever reason, it turns out the strangle's just not having the effect we're looking for. We go tight waist, ankle. I bring everything around the corner to his hamstring, and from here, we take him up and over. Now we're in the perfect position to apply Kimura on the near side arm. This is going to give us a good opportunity to come up and turn everything inwards so that when we go to lock the figure of four, we're going to have an ungodly tight triangle to work with and a strong finish. This is a great way to combine the seated Yoko Senkaku with the supine Yoko Senkaku. Whenever you have one, you always have the other. And you can throw your opponent around from pin to strangle, back to pin, strangle, and get great results out there on the mat. Now, let's start to look at the link between the side triangle, Yoko Senkaku, and the armbar, Jujigatami. We have an opponent down in a situation where we're trying to employ an armbar against him. Let's look at the armbar in particular that we're going to look at. It's one where our foot is on the near side, so it might be more like a little Loctite. a beginner kind of armbar to stand like so. This is a very good opportunity for us to go through and start locking up Yoko Senkaku. We're going to take our left foot and place our foot through our training partner's armpit and into the armpit like so. So we've created a 1 in, 1 out situation. One arm is outside my legs and the other, lock your hands, is inside my legs. Okay. From this position, look how we tilt over to the side and we extend the bottom leg through. Straighten out your legs. As a result, we're in a position where we can start to work this Yoko Senkaku. We know that the key to a Yoko Senkaku is to start with good body positioning. If I locked right here in this position, I would need very long legs to be able to lock up my opponent. Placido is not even particularly broad through the shoulders, and yet you can see I'm already struggling. However, a simple shift in body position, which involves me putting my foot on the mat, coming up and shifting so that I can kick my leg all the way through, lock your hands, and then from here, when I come back, I find myself in a vastly superior position. Now I've eliminated my opponent's shoulder from the triangle, so that when I close my triangle, the strangulation pressure is immense. Okay, let's have a look at this again. We start off with a Judigatami leg configuration like so. I take my foot and I pass it inside my training partner's armpit. I tilt down towards his hips. And as a result, I can easily pass my legs through underneath. I could, if I had very long legs, just attempt a triangle from here. But someone like me with short legs, that's not going to happen. I need to get perfect body mechanics first. So I'm going to have the confidence to unlock my legs and put my bottom foot right down here, so I can push through and extend my left leg through. With my 2 knees pointing down to the floor, when I come back now, it's going to be a tight triangle. Now, we pin his hand down towards his rib cage, and from here, we apply strangulation pressure for a very strong finish. This is one nice way of linking the Judigatami armbar to the Yoko Senkaku, the side triangle. Let's look at another one. One of the most popular forms of Judigatami or armbar entry in the whole sport is a spinning Judigatami. Let's have a look at a basic spinning Juji. Okay, Jiu-Jitsu 101, we all learn an underhook, just stand like so, and from here I post my hand on the far side and we spin around the corner. He locks his hands defensively and we've hit a spinning Judigatami. You've all seen it 1,000 times. Okay, here's a common problem associated with its use. Very often people make this mistake. They take the underhook on the far side, but they make the mistake of placing their knee inside the training partner's armpit. When they go to spin into the Judigatami, they find to their horror that their foot is caught, come look at their foot is caught inside their opponent's armpit, just like so. So that when they go to apply the Judigatami, their legs are in a very poor position. Even if you bring 2 feet across now, it makes no difference. You don't have a cross-face leg. In any Juji, you need a cross-face leg. Here, you don't have one, so that when you sit back for the Juji, you can easily just push your legs down towards the hips, do all kinds of things to subvert your Judigatami. You made a basic beginner's error by placing your knee inside here, when it should have been over the shoulder. Because of this basic error, when I turn the corner and sit into the Juji, my foot is caught in an awkward position, and I go into the Judigatami, and now there's no real pressure, there's no cross-face leg. My opponent can sit up and easily escape from this position. Okay? Now, you can take that beginner's mistake and turn that into an expert's win by converting from Judigatami to Yoko Senkaku, the side triangle. Let's say I have an underhook on this side. I'm going to deliberately place my knee inside his armpit. Why? Because I have no intention of finishing with the armbar. My intention is to go into the stranglehold. I place my knee around the corner, and from here I sit through, and there we have it. I come up and lock Kimura. From this position, I tilt towards the hips and kick my bottom leg through. Now, from here, we know what to do. we go to a belly down shift, and I punch my right leg as far through as it'll go, so that when we come back into an ungodly tight stranglehold. When he tries to pull away, it's so difficult. And as I apply my legs, we get an immediate stranglehold. Once again, using a deliberate ruse to set up the spinning judogatame, my opponent's armpit, I put my knee inside of it. And as a result, when I step over into what he thinks is a judogatame attack, it's not. I come around the corner and sit. Now, this is a failure position for judogatame, but a win position for triangles. I lock up, I pitch over to the side, and kick my bottom leg through. From here, I come up, put my legs all the way through, and lock up the figure of four. Once again, when we apply the stranglehold with our legs, it comes on immediately, and we get a great strangulation. This is another excellent way to link up arm bars, judogatame, with triangles, Yoko Senkaku. Now, we've been looking at side triangles out of a range of different positions and scenarios. Let's look at now one of the easiest ways for us to apply a side triangle while you're passing someone's guard. In order to use this, we're going to have to link it with another one of the great systems we employ, Kimura. From a situation where I start off in front of a training partner in a seated guard situation, anytime someone's seated, they're always going to be reaching for us, and we've got back exposure on the far side. Okay, you more or less guarantee that every time you're in a seated situation. So as we go in with our training partner, we start the various hand fights that initiate these positions. We're going to go through and we're going to step our foot just inside our training partner's body like so. We're in the perfect position now to take everything across our training partner's body and lock up a simple Kimura attack and come around into a T Kimura position like so. My opponent is now interested in turning into me. Why? If he stays static, then I can just come up on top and pin him, or go into any submission hold based on the Kimura. If he goes to turn away from us, it's physically impossible because of the Kimura. So his only option is to turn in. When I see him turning in, we always want to slow him down by lifting that elbow, and then from here, I start bringing my knee underneath. I'm going to take my foot and leg over my training partner's head. As he fights to come up on top of me, we just kick through, and we end up in the Yoko Senkaku position. As always from Yoko Senkaku, we look to get the best possible grip of our legs first. So we come up into a belly down shift and punch our leg through. Then when we come back, we lock up an incredibly tight figure of four, and the strangle is set for the finish. Once again, you're facing this way. We start off in front of our training partner, we post, move, etc. And then from here, step inside. Now we go through, lock, and from this position it's an easy thing for us to go across our training partner's body and lock up. As he tries to turn into us, we always take our knee in front and elevate his elbow. My leg comes forward over my training partner's head and passes through underneath, like so. Just turn around in this direction. As always from here, I can't just lock my triangle here. You're condemning yourself to failure before you can begin. The first thing is always to put our foot on the mat and turn through, so that I turn my quadriceps down towards the floor. Now I come down onto two straightened legs. We bend one, then the other, and from here we get a very tight strangulation indeed. Done in this fashion, we can link up the Kimura system with Yoko Senkaku, and as a result we can apply it even as we're passing somebody's guard. Now we've been looking at the side triangle position. Let's quickly bear in mind one of the big statements that this video is trying to make, that triangles can be employed as part of an overall system rather than just a move that you pull out of the hat every so often. A big part of that system is the idea of a four-step method by which we apply triangles in general. The first step is to gain some kind of useful grip over our opponent, which will facilitate the second step, which is to create a one-in, one-out situation where one of your opponent's arms is trapped inside your legs and one is trapped on the outside. Once we get to this one-in, one-out situation, we lock up the trap triangle of some kind, and then we transition into the full figure of four. The figure of four is used to strangle your opponent. If you get the strangle, congratulations, the match is over. No need to go to step 4. Okay, you've stopped at step 3. But if the strangle should ever prove insufficient, then we've got to go to the fourth step, which is to switch from a strangle to a joint lock. In the case we're looking at, it's a lock to our opponent's arms, the Kimura. The Yoko Senkaku position is ideally situated, or ideally set up to enable you to work very, very strongly with Kimuras to both of your opponent's arms, and also to bring in some additional wrist locks. Let's have a look at this right now. From a situation, I'll take it from the front headlock and we'll work from there. From a situation where I've turned my opponent over into Yoko Senkaku, okay? We set our opponent down, we draw the leg back, and from here we turn our opponent over. We ended up in a Yoko Senkaku right here. If for whatever reason the stranglehold is proving to be inadequate, and we're just not putting the guy away with a strangle, there's a bunch of good options here, okay? The first option is Kimuras on the far arm. I'm going to drag my training partner's his arm in, just like so, and we're going to take our training partner's wrist and lock onto it just like so. As I lock my legs, I'm just going to take his wrist, I'm just going to push the wrist out and away, okay? And we apply a one-handed Kimura. I take his wrist down towards my knee and I push him across. I make sure my legs pull backwards and we push for a strong Kimura attack. Now that Kimura is strong, but it becomes a lot stronger when I hold the wrist with one hand and the elbow with the other. I pull the elbow and I push the wrist, and we get a very, very strong joint lock. If for whatever reason I cannot get the effect I want on the far arm, then we go near arm Kimura. I lock the near arm Kimura, I pop up to my base, and I put his hand in behind his back. From here, we set up into the power line, as we saw from the Kimura sequence, and my legs separate. Now we're in the perfect position to take everything up to the line of our training partner's shoulder, and then pull for a strong finish. Always, everything comes up to the line of the shoulder, and then we get the finishes that we're looking for. If I find, for whatever reason, let's move around this one, that as we come up from the Yoko Senkaku, his hands are locked, and we're just really, really struggling here to get any kind of Kimura action working, you can always go back into the Yoko Senkaku and reapply the stranglehold. We put our ear on our training partner's hip, then we go forward, kick through, and once again, we lock up the stranglehold. There's our finish. So you can play between these Kimura attacks. Let's add in the idea of a wrist lock in this case. Okay, we'll just start in the Yoko Senkaku, just lie down. So here we are. We've secured the Yoko Senkaku using any one of the methods that we just looked at. From here, we go through, and for whatever reason, the strangle is proving insufficient. Okay, so I'm going to pull back with my two legs, a back heel, and we're going to push on our training partner's wrist. And as a result, we get a very strong attack. We can make it even stronger when we use a 2-on-1 method, where I push with the right hand and pull with the left, and we get an even stronger lock. Okay. Another excellent attack from here is a wrist lock, where I get a hold of my training partner's arm and lock it in tight. From here, I shorten his elbow and lock, just like so. Now I cup over my training partner's knuckles, and we lock everything in nice and close, and we get a nice strong wrist lock attack. So anytime we've got an opponent here in front of us, look out, it's not a difficult thing for us to quickly take his hands and lock them inwards. And then from here, we get very strong wrist locks. The key to the wrist lock is to jam his tricep on our bicep, and then everything goes in, 1, 2, hand over hand. When he tries to twist out, it's so difficult. And from here, you get a very, very nasty wrist lock action. Now, let's move around in this direction. Now, from this position, we've got a Kimura. We couldn't get, for whatever reason, Kimuras on the far arm. They weren't working. Now we've got a Kimura on the near arm. So from here, look how we take our body up, and from this position, we're ready to go. I extend my leg out, and from here, I take, as I sit on my training partner's power line, I take his elbow up to the shoulder line, and then we apply our braking pressure. If we do everything from down here, it's hard to get finishes. So we sweep everything up, and then from this position, there's a very, very strong kimura to work with. Done in this fashion, you can transfer from strangles to joint locks. You've got a bunch of them right there in front of you every time you're working with Yoko Senkaku.